What's up, night crawlers? Welcome back to the Nightmare's Edge. Thanks for dropping in. Please sit back, relax, and let me tickle those inner fears. No idea how to break this gently, so I guess I'll just lay it out there and let you make your own judgments. I'm no monster-slaying wonderkin. I'm not a security guard or a gas station clerk. I'm not the most relatable person on the planet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In fact, a lot of folks wouldn't really classify me as a person to begin with. I would, but I'm a little biased. I guess I should just pull out the splinter, shouldn't I? I have black hair, light brown skin, hazel eyes, weigh about 80 to 90 pounds, stand about 3'6", and while we are probably shaped the same, about half of me is cloth, plastic, and ceramic. I'm a golem if you want to be nice, or an evil doll if you want to be an asshole about it. There, I said it. Don't get the wrong impression. I'm totally made to kill. But the person who did it, they had a whole lot more rage than talent. They took a hell of a lot of shortcuts, and let's just say I'm less than the perfect killing machine. Optimally, I'd be a new entity, created from scratch with a superhuman intellect, a body that is damn near impossible to destroy, and faultless devotion to the person who created me. As it stands, my entire personality, not memories, is from some poor asshole that got kidnapped and tortured by my psychotic creator. My body is 1/5 a corpse from the same guy, with a durability to match. And honestly, while I have to follow the instructions given, it's to the letter, not the spirit. But while those instructions are beyond fucked up, my unlucky self is in the middle of something worse somehow, I think. See, my mission is to wait in the attic of this house for the next 10 years until a certain family moves in. The creator had a bit more talent with foresight than construction. At that point, I'm to terrorize the child for a couple months, then off him. No occult reason, creator's just an asshole. 3-year-old annoyed her, and that was that. But that is small potatoes compared to what is going on in the place right now. I'm 1 year into my decade-long stint. From what I was told, the house should have stayed empty till then. But a few weeks ago, when I was counting the new spiders in the attic, I heard a lot of banging and scraping coming from downstairs. I couldn't very well go down and see what was happening, so I waited until the wee hours of the night. The majority of the flesh in my body is held in my oversized head. Being that top-heavy, trying to navigate the drop stairs from the attic silently was no easy task. I hate to keep bitching here, but levitation is another thing my creator could have given me, if she decided to put in more than the minimum effort. Sure enough, the house is set up for habitation. Dated pastel furniture, an old tube television, and all kinds of knickknacks instantly tell me I'm walking through the place of an older person. The pile of pornographic VHS tapes tells me it's likely an older man. There are bookshelves, a lot of westerns, but an equal amount of books on the occult, ranging from Cole's bought garbage to a couple I swear I could feel tugging at whatever eldritch shit holds me together. Or maybe it's nerves. For some reason, I get to feel nervous. If I was going to create a murder doll, I'd like to think that I'd just make sure it couldn't get spooked out. Just my opinion though. I stand perfectly still and listen to see if whoever has taken up residence here is woken. I hear nothing, so I make my way to the kitchen. Knives. So many knives. Kitchen knives, hunting knives, combat knives, what look to be ritual knives. Just about anything with an edge and a point is on a magnetic strip, butcher blocks, or just angrily jammed into the counter. As someone who has detachable hands I can replace with knives, when there are enough blades to make me worry, something drastic is going on. I listen for another moment before making my way to the fridge. Slowly, I open the door. The harsh light from within lighting up the room. Nothing. Not an apple, a soda, or a severed human head. Just a discolored, slightly damp-smelling fridge. Not the strangest thing here, but odd. Then I hear it. An extremely soft footstep. Not at the bedroom door like I'd expect. Hearing and sight-wise, I'm pretty immaculate, necessary for my line of work, but about halfway down the stairs. I don't have a heart to skip a beat, but my eyes began to dart around looking for a place to hide. I leave the fridge door open and crab walk up the wall silently, wedging myself in the corner of the ceiling, hoping this person doesn't just turn on the lights. I'm an ambush predator, not a brawler. The guy walks into the room without a sound. I can hear snoring 4 houses away, and this guy is dead silent as he calmly scans the room. He is tall, 6'3" or so, and dressed completely in a Catholic bishop garb. His face is pale and weathered, and his eyes show about as much emotion as mine do. He scans the room like a shark, coasting from corner to corner, abruptly turning, but thankfully not looking up. I can't see his arms, but there is some strange peristaltic motion under his robes. And the longer I am around him, the more I feel dirty. Not that I understand how that is possible without skin, mind you. Eventually, he seems satisfied at the lack of intruders and makes his silent way back to his bedroom. When I'm certain this isn't just a ruse, I scuttle down the wall and back to the attic. I climb to the ceiling and lower the door just enough to squeeze through. I don't sleep, so I spend the next dozen hours running the situation through my head. See, I don't know much about the paranormal beyond my own creation. Hell, I don't know much about many things I don't need to. But I do know that something isn't right here, and in a huge way. When I hear the front door shut and a car pulling out of the driveway, I sneak back out of the attic. The place is much the same during the day, creepy, not so subtly violent, and generally having a ghost hunters meets hoarders vibe. Don't know much about the paranormal, but I know shitty cable shows. Way to prioritize, creator. What I didn't notice last night was the door to the basement. Newly painted in a deep scummy looking black, and having a myriad of locks studding one side. I walk up to it. I can barely hear something on the other side. I don't know what kind of soundproofing this guy has going on, but it must have cost him an arm and a leg. I place my head against the door with a small clink of porcelain. I can barely hear the sound of a person, obviously in distress. I listen as they scream, trying to make out exactly what they are being harmed by. I can't do it, but I have one trick I can play. My head unfolds like a rose, exposing the withered remains of the man's face, skull, and sensory organs that compose me. I'm hit with a stinging rush of input that stuns me for a moment. The head is protective, but also lets me tone down the sensory overload that comes from overclocking the eyes and ears. Suddenly, the voice is crisp and clear.
I've told you everything I know. Just end it. For God's sakes, just end it.
A male voice says, sobbing. There's a wet slithering noise and a violent ripping. The man must still be alive, though, judging by his screams.
Just stop talking, please. Just do that at least.
The man continues as a sudden high-pitched shriek makes me stumble backward, exclaiming shit. Or rather, that's what I wanted to say. My mouth is full of steel-capped pointed fangs, made for combat, not eloquence. The noise I make sounds more like an aggressive fart than English. Before I have time to get fully back to my feet, something throws itself against the door, the lock straining, barely able to hold whatever it is back. I scrambled back to the attic, hoping that whatever that was isn't smart enough to pass on any information. I spend the rest of the day deciding my course of action, and eventually I come to a decision. Likely, I'm going to have to do some screwed up stuff. I don't know if I have a soul, but if I do, my mission in life is going to guarantee it's a pretty shitty eternity regardless of whose religion is right. But maybe I can, build some good karma, something. I know I'm what goes bump in the night, but this guy, I'm starting to think he's the fucking boogeyman. So I decide, in a very vague way, to try and do something about this. I've had a full year to get to know every nook and cranny of this house. Every angle of attack, every hiding spot, vent, and hollow wall. I might not be able to tear this guy and his partner, pet, apart, but I can do what I was made to do. Watch, learn, wait, and when the time is right, make these bastards leak. The thought of direct violence sends a surge of excitement and pleasure through me. reminding me I'm not the good thing, just a force of nature pointed in a good direction. My shoulders and hips dislocate as I slide into the vents, hands and feet rotating to let my spider-like fingers and toes propel me through the air vents. I'm silent and I'm quick. I feel more at home in the confines of the vent, more in control. I find myself hoping the bishop hears me. Maybe sticks his head up to investigate. The thought of his face shredding under my teeth, my hands plunging into his back, pushes me forward even quicker. I slow as I get to the basement vents, knowing whatever is down there can hear as good as myself. I can hear it moving though, wet and grating. The image that goes through my mind of what this thing could look like takes some wind out of my sails. I can hear its victim too, no words, just sobbing and gasping from what sounds like a broken jaw. I pause for a moment though as I hear a low chanting. I can't understand the language, but I can feel it gathering power, tugging at me, trying to sweep up whatever animates me into itself. I pull myself to the very edge of the grate. I can see the bishop's arms and the victim, but no sign of the other thing. The victim looks to be in his 20s, white guy, but I'm only guessing. His face and hands are torn to shreds of flesh and gristle, and there is a deep spurting wound in his stomach. He is strapped to a chair with what looks like barbed wire. He tries to raise his head. He tries to struggle, but he is far too gone. The fact this image makes me giddy does nothing for my budding heroism. Then it comes into view. The first thing I see is a deformed, almost cherubic head, skin stretched to its breaking point. Its eyes were little more than elongated slots showcasing angry-looking muscles behind its twitching, bloodshot eyes. Its teeth looked like two solid pieces of sharpened bone, its white tongue sliding, worm-like, over its bleeding, cracked lips. The body was pale, layers of fat and muscle overlapping, making it an opposing wall of flesh as its stubby legs stomped toward the man in the chair. Its arms were long and lean in comparison to the rest of its body, one massive brown claw extending from the middle finger of each. It puts its face inches from the man, the creature's head being almost as large as the man's torso. The bishop begins to chant louder as the monster starts to bring up one of those long brown claws to the man's throat. As the chanting reaches its zenith, the monster plunges the claw in and rips downward, spilling the man's entrails and running that long, dripping tongue over the wound. I can feel pressure in the air as the man's organs start to slide back into his body. A shimmering haze appears around the wound. Once they are back through, the body continues to collapse inward, tearing and splattering till it's a perfect fist-sized sphere of gore. Then, with a torrential amount of blood, viscera, and purple mist, it explodes. And out of that mist steps a second monster, smaller than the first, but still a horror that makes me look like a super Ted. I decide not to push my luck, scuttling back to the attic before I am seen. And that is where I'm at. It was a few days ago. I had to wait till I could get to the late 90s computer this guy owns to... What is this really? I mean, I'm hoping for advice, I guess. Barring that, just to let people know things like him and me exist. Maybe pull a Pinocchio and end up a real boy if I can save a few lives. Who knows? One of you, I hope. So it seems like my advice followed two main lines of thought: Rip and Tear and Home Alone. I've got to say, might seem like the obvious options, but that is only from the outside. The help was appreciated. I'll address some of the things brought up to help you guys be my cutmen and women. Yeah, I'm not really a brawler. I'm no teacup, but in a straight up fight, I don't know how well against demons, I guess we'll call them. As far as upgrades, well, I'll get to that in a bit. But other than that, I'm not sure that works. I don't know if I should be working out or finding an arc welder or what. I guess I'm going to have to do some experiments. Getting outside seems like a good idea. I'm going to be honest though, I have no idea what outside is like. Where I am is one of those things my creator did not feel the need to equip me with. But I guess it's obvious I'm in a residential neighborhood. Maybe garages or something could work. Which brings me to the next point. I do need to figure out more of what is going on. Truth be told, I know a lot more than I can tell you. Creator blocking me from ruining her plan. I tried to put some of this to work. Some success, some failure. Here it goes. My first setback was the lack of access to anything scarier than my teeth and the 4-inch blades I can swap out my hands for. See, the problem isn't that I wasn't well equipped this time. I actually have a regular-sized chest covered in a tarp in the attic where my creator assures me rest all kinds of implements of death tailor-made for me. It's made of a dark, splintered wood, secured with a massive iron lock with no keyhole. Faded, purposely antiqued would be a better word. Paint trying to look jaunty and creepy all at the same time reads Tickle Trunk in large letters on the top. The problem is, the lock has no key. It won't open for me nor anyone else until my mission begins, leaving me in a rather sad situation offense-wise. I rolled over every option I could think of. Reading the books downstairs? No idea if I'd even understand them. Contacting my creator? Not the killing demons type. Physical force? Tried and failed. These are just a few of the ideas I had before I heard the door of the house smash inward a little after midnight. I scuttle into a vent and try to figure out what's going on. I find a good angle from the floor vent and see a new oddity. The door was indeed smashed to splinters inward, steel reinforcements and thick locks twisted and mangled. Standing in the middle of this was a new person who I had no real right to judge based on weirdness as an evil doll, but I was going to anyway. He was a stoutly built guy, mid to late 30s, close to 6 feet, square-jawed and half a dozen nasty scars across his face. His hair was cropped short and he had on a thick brown leather bomber jacket with several hooks and holsters holding various pieces of modified weaponry. A clean white t-shirt and a pair of faded jeans, reinforced with bits of leather and steel, completed his outfit. The strangest thing about this guy, though, was his right leg. It clicked and whirred as he moved, and as I looked close, I could see the hard edges of mechanical parts show through tears in the jeans. Casually, across his left shoulder, he held a massive pump-action shotgun, the barrel welded and drilled in an aggressive pointed muzzle. In his right hand, he held a slab of sharpened steel, reminiscent of an oversized cricket bat, a yellow and black danger symbol painted on one side. He holds the shotgun one-handed and fires into the ceiling. The shot makes almost no noise, but the effect is immediate and cacophonous. A piece of the ceiling, the size of a child's pool, explodes upward, raining down plaster and wood. He walks forward with confidence, his right leg gouging and cracking the floor as he walked.
Hey, Padre. I'm here for midnight mass.
The man says, swinging the sword-like object into a wall, in a burst of plaster and sparks as a power line is severed. Faster than I can register, the bishop is at the top of the stairs, a smile that has no effect on his dead eyes spreading across his face.
I was wondering how long it would take the choir boy to find me. 2 decades. That's a little long to hold a grudge, don't you think?
The bishop says, slowly walking to the bottom of the stairs.
This is a long time coming, old man. I've killed a lot of shit worse than you on my way here. I've become more than the result of your little party in the 90s. Choir boy? Asshole. The only thing I'm going to sing is raindrops keep falling on my head as I piss on your corpse.
And with that, the man aims and fires his gun at the bishop. The old man glides back up the stairs in a black blur.
You think you're the first kid with a gun to come after me? You aren't even the funniest.
I notice an accent from the bishop, Dutch maybe. From under his robe, several thick white tentacles begin to snake forth. They are studded with what look to be giant jagged fingernails. He anchors them to the wall and raises his body, swaying and moving like a spider in its own web. The man smiles for a second and throws his shotgun. Somehow, as it spins towards the bishop, it fires 4 times, blowing the 4 tentacles to pieces. He catches it as he charges, slamming it into the bishop's face. The gun, upgraded as it is, stays intact, shattering one of the bishop's eye sockets, the dead orb flying across the hall. A 5th tentacle, easily twice the size of the previous one, slams into the man. He keeps his balance on the short flight down the stairs and lands, sword held at ready.
First round to me there, your worship. Don't worry, though. I've got plenty more for the collection plate.
The guy says with a swagger that gives me hope.
You got me there. Don't worry though. There won't be a round 4.
The bishop says as he snaps a finger. One of the cherubic things stalks silently from the kitchen. A high-pitched hollow noise. I assume his laughter comes from deep within.
Should have known you'd have something to fight your battles. Couldn't you afford legs for this thing?
The man, who I'm thinking as the hero, says. I notice him flick a switch on the butt of a shotgun before tossing it to the ground. He draws out a bulky submachine gun. A 2-foot chain anchors it to his wrist. The gun is spiked and studded, all its fragile parts scaled up and shielded. He spins it once like a flail and grabs it by the grip, drawing the monster's attention. He looks at the bishop.
Aw, thought you'd like this toy.
He says, shifting his gaze to the monster.
But I got something you are really going to get a kick out of, big fella.
He unleashes a kick that sprays shrapnel toward the beast. It shuts its stretched, massive eyes against the debris, making itself completely vulnerable to the steel, piston-driven leg immediately behind the stinging cloud. Its jaw shatters and it stumbles backward, but the hero keeps his momentum, firing a clip from his machine gun into its chest. Then swinging the firearm in a devastating arc into the top of the creature's head. The pale gray blood sprays and rotten-looking yellow bone is exposed as the monster slams into the kitchen wall. It screams and catches the sword that blurs at his neck. The hero reloads his gun single-handed, using an ingenious little rig that fires another clip point-blank into the creature. It's hurting, but it's not out of the fight. It rips the sword from the hero's hand and unleashes a massive headbutt that sends the man to the ground, his nose a pulped ruin. The monster picks him up single-handed and tosses him back down the hallway, stomping toward him before he has a chance to rise. The man delivers a series of kicks from the ground that stun the beast, bones deep inside his twisted form breaking and splintering. He kicks up with a spray of dust and begins wildly beating the creature with his firearm. He dodges its attack, spinning and slamming the weapon into the thing. But out of nowhere, the creature spins on one arm, catching the hero off guard with a massive backhanded strike. I can almost feel his arm shatter and his ribs break as a wet cracking noise echoes through the hallway. He screams and holds his right arm as he tries to rise. The monster stalks towards him, bloodied and looking on the verge of death itself.
Wait,
The hero says, defeated. The monster lets out a high-pitched chuckle and shakes its shredded head at the hero, expecting some kind of plea for mercy. Instead, the man starts his own laugh.
just needed a second. Thanks for that.
The hero says as a gyroscopic whining can be heard from the shotgun laying on the floor. It aims itself at the creature and fires over 24 rounds that make the effect of the first few seem petty. The monster explodes apart in wet chunks, defenseless against the torrent of lead and phosphorus. By the time the gun starts dry firing, the demon is nothing more than an ankle-deep pile of gore. The hero stands. He still seems hurt. He's breathing heavy but is obviously running on endorphins and rage alone.
Looks like we get round 3 after all. I'm feeling it, but not enough to keep from breaking you until dawn.
He starts to limp towards the bishop, picking up his custom sword along the way.
I said no round 4.
The bishop said before whistling. As the second monster stalks forward from the basement, I realize the first must have been the smaller of the two. It casually bats aside the injured warrior's blade, and to the hero's credit, he stayed conscious for 2 roundhouse blows from the beast.
Take him downstairs. Keep the eyes. I need a new one.
The bishop says, following the monster, hero in tow, downstairs. I have a moment of indecision. Do I go back to the attic or follow them? I make my choice, scuttling my way down to the vents downstairs. The hero is strapped to a thick wooden chair and is in a groggy state of half-consciousness. The massive demon walks over looking to kill the man.
Leave him. We need to replace our losses tonight.
The bishop says, turning around with a device that looks too much like a grapefruit spoon. He walks toward the bound man and gets a face full of bloody saliva for the effort. Slowly, the bishop wipes the fluid from his face, flicking it back towards the hero. The creature masquerading as a man says nothing, simply drops the serrated spoon and continues to walk towards the hero. The valiant man struggles and curses as the bishop slowly moves his face towards the man. His lips stretch out a little too far and seal around the hero's eye socket. With a tearing noise, he sucks the man's eye from his head, seeming to savor it for a moment before spitting it into a pale claw-like hand.
Just squaring us up, fella.
The bishop says, popping the eye into his empty socket. With a couple of slow blinks, it syncs up with his remaining eye.
Now, I get to the fun part.
The bishop grins evil and motions for the demon to come over. It's holding a device that looks like a speculum that got into death metal. 2 black iron rings attached to a thick screw with an oversized crank handle. The demon opens the rings and roughly clamps them closed just above the hero's knee. The man tries to struggle and receives a punch to the stomach from a fist half the size of his torso. The hero's screams vibrate the meat inside my ceramic skull. The demon cranks the handle as the bone splinters, muscle starts to tear, and with a sickening explosive noise, the mechanical leg tears free from the man's body.
Dispose of that.
The bishop says, and immediately the demon begins to slam the leg against the cement floor. Chips of concrete and sparks fly, but there isn't so much as a scratch on the leg. The bishop sighs angrily.
You are really a pain in the ass, aren't you? Where'd you get a hold of something like that? No matter. I've got just the thing.
The bishop leaves. When he returns, he's wheeling in what appears to be a large industrial microwave. Script and symbols are gouged into the fake oak surface. As he brings it into the room, the air feels cold and sterile. The bishop plugs it into the wall with an electronic hum, and the cold, isolated feeling becomes a smothering blanket of negative emotion.
If your dumbass doesn't kill me this time, you are fucking dead, old man.
The hero says petulantly.
Such big words. No, little boy. You get to stay around for a little longer. See, you showed me I need to go a little bigger with my help. And you are the only person that can help me.
The bishop says as he picks up the leg, opening the door of the microwave. It's much too large to fit in, but does all the same. He closes the door, and an eldritch green light begins to glow through the door. The hero looks shocked, though barely conscious.
Well, that takes care of that then.
The twisted old bastard giggles as he removes the leg, now a twisted steaming stump, and drops it to the ground where it shatters like glass. I decided not to push my luck and quickly make my way back into the attic. I'm no genius, but if I'm right, that machine kills magic. The tickle trunk is magic. But what's inside, to the best of my knowledge, isn't. And without the stuff inside, my chances of solving the situation the way I was created to, with violence, is just about zero. If that one-man army couldn't do it, I have no chance. And that is where we are. A little further than before, but what should I do now? Do I try and break the guy out? Seems like he'd be a good ally, even down an eye and a leg. Or should I find a way to go through those books? Chances are, though, it's going to be a while before I can get the tickle trunk open. I think the next thing I will do will involve some supply gathering of a more mundane type. The story is called I'm an Evil Doll, But I'm Not the Problem, written by HughEhhoule. I want to give a huge thank you to T-Stash, Somber Puppet, and Tutorian for joining me on this part of the story. You guys freaking nailed it. Be sure to check the description for their channel links, socials, and to the story. Now be sure to come back next week for the second part. These three will be returning and will be joined by Swamp Dweller and Dom's Roundtable. But until next time, remember, just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't watching you.